The report revealed that top managers at the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency and newly incorporated companies colluded to rake in millions of shillings from the COVID-19 boom. Details in the special audit report by the Auditor General point to at least 3 private firms that were barely 6 months in inception that were awarded tenders with billions of shillings with no evidence of specialization. Findings also point to raising of tender prices by KEMSA officials, leading to what may have cost the taxpayer billions of unnecessary expenditure. Well, let's get more from our very own Sam Gituku.
At least 1.2 billion shillings worth of COVID-19 materials were procured from 3 newly incorporated firms, the youngest just a month old by the time the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed in the country. Shop and Buy Limited, a company registered on the 14th of February 2020, was awarded a tender to supply KN95 masks and personal protective equipment, a tender worth 900 million shillings. The materials were delivered to KEMSA warehouses on the 22nd of June, despite having been ordered in urgency terms. They are yet to be paid for the supply. Also yet to be paid is Killig Limited, a company incorporated on the 22nd of January this year. They supplied PPEs worth 9 million shillings on the 22nd of June. But Nanopay Limited was the lucky one. Registered on the 22nd of August last year, they were recruited to supply KN95 masks worth 349.7 million shillings. They did so on 6th of August and already paid. The auditor faulting the lack of qualification and experience for the 3 companies who had no record of supplying specialized medical equipment. The auditors have traced the procurement process to have begun when Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache wrote to KEMSA CEO John Manjari instructing that they procure 25,000 PPEs, 10,000 N95 masks, 30 ventilators, among other items. Mochache wrote to KEMSA between the 18th and 23rd of March, barely a week after confirmation of the first case of coronavirus. On the 1st of April, KEMSA communicated to Mochache confirming that goods worth 2.1 billion shillings had been ordered. The order had exceeded Ministry of Health request. In the days following, the numbers were rationalized, KEMSA having to revise its order, by which time goods worth 149 million shillings had already been received. Record efficiency at KEMSA. A week after the revision of the order, PS Mochache communicated to KEMSA that the World Bank had approved 758 million worth of support in COVID-19 activities, annexing a list of suppliers, goods to be procured in their units and prices. But it is the pricing that raises alarm on possible collusion between KEMSA officials and traders. A supplier named as Gladlab Supplies Limited is said to have offered a price of 4,750 shillings per box of 50 masks on the 8th of April. On the following day, the supplier revised the price down to 3,183. On the 19th of May, the supplier was invited to tender with a closure date of 2 days later given. A day after the closure, the 22nd of May 2020, Gladlab was awarded the tender at a price of 4,500 shillings per box of 50 masks. Yet the supplier had already revised the price to just over 3,000 shillings, costing the taxpayer a possible loss of 39.5 million shillings. A tender that would have cost 95.4 million shillings ended up fetching 135 million shillings. And while Gladlab Supplies Limited was authorized to deliver the goods on the 14th of May, the auditors found that the delivery had already taken place between the 29th of April and the 7th of May, 30,000 units delivered.
There are pointers that this is supplier driven. There are pointers, there are red flags. But it is not conclusive because the investigations need to be done further.
The auditor's report lays much of the blame on KEMSA CEO John Manjari, the accounting officer of the agency, but calls for further investigation to establish if there was collusion between KEMSA officials and the suppliers.
There has to be collusion. How does the supplier know that they can bring in items? Then somebody internal to KEMSA is also culpable.
Sam Gituku, Citizen TV, Nairobi.